Hello, good afternoon. Wednesday again already. Hello, Thad.
Hello, Vicky. It
It's
is
so lovely to
Wednesday
see you.
already. Seems like
Isn't
we only
that
did this yesterday.
time flies when we're having fun? That's what they say. And I mean, yeah, we do talk about some pretty heavy topics and difficult topics. And so, yeah, not to make light of that, but we do also need to have fun in life. Yeah. And isn't it always about just how can we navigate the tough times and trials and errors and still know that it's okay to have a bit of fun? So, we're going to talk about a rather tough one
Hmm.
today, in that
Yeah.
it's really the crux of conflict. So, first, I'll introduce you for those of viewers who don't know you, who aren't familiar with you and your work, and myself. So, I'm Vicky, and I'm here with Thad Hollis. He's a mediator, divorce coach, and conflict coach. He has over 30 years of helping people through separation and conflict in any situation. Today's topic is, like I said, one of the hardest situations that people face. It's when one person wants separation and the other doesn't. And it's painful for both sides, of course. And the person leaving often carries guilt. The person who's being left carries grief, anger. There's a mixed bag of emotions. And I guess there's no real roadmap on how to navigate it, but we're going to help you with some of that today. So, if you're a family lawyer and you feel this conversation could support one of your clients, by all means, share the recording with them. And we hope that it will bring a little bit of hope and help to tough situations, tough conversations, courageous conversations. So let's talk through them. Thad, when one person has made a decision to leave and the other is still fighting to save the relationship, what's actually happening for both people at that time, emotionally and otherwise?
There's always a lot going on. Excuse me. So imagine we'll put the scenario together, and this is 99.9% of the time. Someone's made a decision that I want to end the relationship. It's not working. It's just, it hasn't for a while, and I want to leave. And when they make the announcement to their partner or spouse, it's often a blindsided. So they've been prepared. So it may have been weeks, months, or sometimes even years leading up to the thought process of finally getting to the point, and it is a courageous point to sort of say, I want to leave. It's, this isn't working, and it's any number of reasons. We'll have all sorts of excuses, but the reality is just you've fallen out of the relationship. Now, for the other side, the other party, the recipient of this, it's even if they've seen the warning signs, even if they know there's been unhappiness, even if they know they've been distant, even if you're sleeping in separate bedrooms, it's going to be, oh, how did this happen? I didn't know this was coming. Wow. And so, you've got two different conversations that's going to be going on. One's going to be full of guilt, and the other one's going to start going, hang on, I'm going into blindsided grief now. I don't know where this is going. And initially, one's going to be going, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I don't want to hurt you. And the other's going, what do you mean? I'm so angry with you. You can't do this to us. I want to try and make this. So you've got two separate levels of conversation going on at the same time, and this tremendous conflict internally, externally. And the thought process for both of them, well, how do I explain this to my parents, the children, you know our friends? What happens? you know they go into immediate There's an immediate panic where the person who's made the decision may have already had plans, like, okay, I've found somewhere to live, I've got this going, I'm actually moving out now. And it's like, well, how, all of that happens, and the heart feels heavy, the chest constricts. So it's to put it into a succinct way, there's two different conversations going on. One's prepared, the other one isn't. And how
Mm,
do you navigate that conversation is the
mm,
crux of what we're going to be talking about today, because there is so much going on for both sides. you know we often take it for granted that the person making the decision to leave the relationship is going to be okay because they've made the decision. That's not true. That's not true at all. The person who's made the decision to leave is going to be racked with guilt. They're going to be racked with, I don't want to hurt them. I just don't love them anymore, or I'm not in love with them. Even if I can't stand the cotton socks they wear, it still means something to say goodbye. Bless you. Say goodbye to
Thank you.
something you've invested in, that you've been part of. That is who's been what's been defining you for the period that you've been together.
It's an identity thing, yeah. Gosh, you described that so well, and it really sounds like it is the ultimate conflict because there's no common ground, it seems. I always think of, if we're going to solve or resolve conflict, are we looking for common ground? Are we looking for the common good? Are we going towards at least finding a goal that we can both agree on? And the description that you've just shared, which feels so real, is really no common ground. In fact, both people are kind of going, well, maybe not going opposite ways, but one's going this way and one's still trying to catch up. And then all the other feelings that happen around the meaning they're giving it about the relationship, about the family, about what was said before, what was lies, what was truth. If we find one thing, suddenly a person's not in love with you anymore, or doesn't want to be in a relationship that you've trusted and been loyal to and feel your life, your identity is wrapped up in, then how much of everything else was true?
Right.
It just feels like the rug's pulled out from
So
you.
so
Absolutely. Yeah. So
I
how
I
do we move?
I I agree with you because I think one of the things that when working with clients is that it doesn't matter you've been together 3 years or 30 years. It's like, so all of this was a lie. And it's like, and I've seen that in mediation. I've heard it as a coach, but as all this is a lie. And it's just like, boom. And it doesn't matter. And it's delivered often just in that sort of tone. And there's so much pain that's conveyed in that. And it comes across angry because it hurts. You know, you've betrayed me. We worked together. We've raised kids. We bought a house. We've had careers. And now you want to finish this? It's um, it's one of the toughest things for the couple to try and figure out. And if it's been 30 years, the kids have been removed, but I've seen adult children have the problem. Well, you know, you're the stable ones in our lives. How do we and so how do we tell our adult children? It's not, we often think telling children if they're young or they're not teens yet, or they are teens, how do we communicate that? But it's often when you're in the older years, well, how do you communicate to your adult children that you're separating? There's there's so many layers that happen, and when the person who's receiving the decision is going to be going, well, hang on, you're leaving. What happens to me? What do we do now? Who do I tell? How do I communicate? Who am I going to go talk to? We're and all these questions pop up, and then so we go through the stages of grief. Whether you want to follow the model of 5 or 7, it still doesn't matter. There's going to be, I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be full of fear. I need to bargain. Please stay. We can continue to work on this. And it becomes pleading. And for the other party, the person who's made the decision, it becomes, no, I'm not. And it's how do we say to each other the right words? That's not going to be further inflammatory or painful, because neither side wants to really inflict pain, even if they're angry or hurt. It's their internal agony that they're trying to externalize, to release. And so it comes across often as, I really don't like you. I never really did. And that's not true because you've been together. It's no one's, and we've said this so many times in this medium, no one gets together on that first day and decide to move in together or to start a relationship and suddenly go, I'm really going to hate this person in 5 years' time. Yeah, that's never going to happen. So for the fact that it's occurring when it occurs, there's so many layers that has to be thought of, and the assistance of a third party can help. And not your best mate, not your mates down the pub, not your parents, because your parents are unfortunately going to be pretty biased as to what happens, or the kids, because the kids are desperately trying to figure out how can we get you to stay together. And so it's there's adult conversations that have to happen that are really difficult.
Let's talk about those courageous
Yeah.
conversations. These are really, are we talking about keeping the communications clean and saying what needs to be said? Because I feel
Yeah.
like in conflict, we beat around the bush, we soften, we sugarcoat, try
Don't
not
wanna-
to hurt, and it just mixes messages.
Yeah. It's like, it's not you, it's me. I need space. That puts hope to the other side. So the person who's made a decision to leave says, you know what? I just need some space right now. And it's like, oh, hang on, you've made the decision. And so if I was coaching them, for instance, I'd be sitting and saying, have you made the decision to leave? Then be honest. But you don't need to be cruel or mean about it. Just say, it's not that I need space. I'm just not in this relationship anymore. I don't wish to hurt you, but I'm going to leave and I've made my decision. And this isn't maybe someday we'll be friends. We don't do that. It's short sentences, it's clean sentences, it's talking from a place of, I don't wish to hurt you, but I've made my decision and I'm leaving. You know, I'll be in touch in the next day or so. You know, not, about what the next steps can be. Because the other person's going to be leave. Well, okay, if you're leaving, you need space. So we still have a relationship. Things are still going to work. That's not true. The person leaving is leaving. The person left behind is feeling abandoned, is full of fear and loss and grief. And don't get me wrong, the person who's made the decision is also suffering with similar feelings. And it is suffering because they're feeling guilt, they're feeling, I don't want to leave. And to get to the decision to leave the relationship has had a whole myriad of feelings to get there and still
And I think,
processing.
yeah, still processing. And I think we've seen patterns where really the person who is leaving a relationship, and quite often this will happen in a work environment too, if you're resigning. You
Mm.
work through a lot of the grief and the processing before you hit the button, so to speak. And so that person who's leaving is already one step ahead or several steps ahead. They've already been through some of that processing. They've already grieved a lot of the dreams and hopes and the relationship that they're leaving. They're into the next stage, whereas it's new for the person who's being left.
And you're so true. I mean, it's not to trivialize when the marriage or a partnership is ending, but in the workplace, often we work for the people like a boss. We're loyal to the boss, and making a decision to leave can be a sense of, I'm saying goodbye forever. So this is sadness. And in a relationship, it goes even deeper than that because this is something that you've made a commitment to with someone else. This has been a partnership. We've made a commitment to be for the rest of our lives together because that's what we believe. And then to suddenly go, well, actually, this isn't what I expected. This isn't working for me. And careful consideration is not like, okay, you didn't put the dishes away, so I'm leaving. That's not, you know, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the systemic, ongoing, whatever that might be for the person making the decision. There can be any number of reasons, and it can be that it was just not the right relationship at this time. But that took time to find that. And the person left behind is still sitting there going, well, what happened? This is like you just, gobsmacked, literally. Like, where do I go? And, you know, one of the things I want to highlight that the advantages of being in Australia, for instance, is that the Family Law Act requires and insists that we have mediation. So we can get to mediation early before we get to the point of impasse. And what I would encourage someone deciding to leave or someone who's been left behind, get to talk to a coach as soon as possible, a therapist, a third party, somebody who's not intimately involved in this experience, this pain. Someone who can stand back and go, okay, let's be practical. Let's put some things together. Let's talk about how you can communicate. Let's talk about what the words are going to look like. Let's keep the language short. Let's keep the language simple because that's
Is
so
this
important.
a recommendation
Yeah,
for either party, whether they're the person leaving or whether they're the person left?
for both parties.
Mm.
Imagine the person that's left is now going to be going, well, I'm really sorry I'm leaving, and starts writing these epistles. Well, that's going to open up, a whole bunch of confusion. It's like, you know, I want to make some time to come by and pick up the rest of my things. I want to do it at a time when it's going to be when we're not going to have to talk, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be a time. Um, there's always going to be an awkward moment for the other person responding. Monosyllables are really important, you
Hmm.
know, rather than trying to navigate, negotiate, and to cajole the person back to the relationship. You can use things like, "I'm not happy that you're leaving. I don't want our relationship to end. I'm here when you're ready to talk." Yeah. If it's short sentences. It doesn't have to be, and it's not about putting hope out there. It's trying to understand what acceptance looks like. And for the person left behind, there may never be acceptance that the relationship ended, but there may be acceptance of the situation that they're in. And there's a very big difference.
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be-
So we can
bec-
choose which part of it, what we're accepting.
right. We
For
often
us,
think
the
of
relationship
acceptance.
may not have ended. For one person, the relationship may not have ended, but they can accept that they're no longer in the relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And that and the circumstances that they're in, that their partner's left, that things are now finished, they're selling the house, or they're having to move out of the rental, or whatever that might be. It doesn't mean that they're happy with the situation, because we often think acceptance means, okay, I'm okay with all of this, I'm moving on. We always want that to happen, but it can be, I'm okay with where I'm at, and I'm okay. It doesn't mean that I've accepted at the end of the relationship, because there's still going to be intense feelings.
Mm.
But understanding that those feelings will never be reciprocated is to then allow the grieving process, so time can work to help with that process.
Mm.
And it's all going to be part of the grieving.
And as
Yeah.
we talk about grieving and processing emotions, I can't help but think that a lot of the healing will happen with the self. The healing doesn't happen in understanding what the other person was thinking or what was going on or wanting to know details about why. That's not where healing happens. Healing always happens within self. So understanding not even why it happened or what your role was, but how do you want to feel? How do you want your life to be? Understanding and accepting, like you said, that it is what it is. Like we must accept that certain things, that you're no longer in that relationship, and then with that, what is available to you? How would you like life to be? Perhaps it's about learning lessons, taking things from those learnings and applying that when you are going to meet another person eventually, or like
Hmm.
there's gifts within the adversity, I think is what I'm saying. And the healing always happens from understanding ourselves better and knowing what role we played.
Yep. Well, also, one of the things that we often hear in a separation and say there's an infidelity. I want to know the details. I want to know who, when, and I've said as a coach, "Well, what's the advantage of knowing that? Did you know that it happened? But how is it going to be going forward for you? How's that going to look? Going back over that is going to cause pain and suffering, but it's not going to actually change the circumstances. Acknowledging that it happened, the person may have admitted that they had the affair, and are leaving for whatever reason. Maybe, but it's getting the clients to the point that if there's going to be an affair in a relationship, it's not the affair is the reason why the relationship ended. And that's the hard part. It's not the affair that ends the relationship. It's what led up to the end of the relationship. The affair was just the symptom of the end of the relationship. You know,
Yeah.
it's and oh, by the way, it's not always an affair. Sometimes it's compulsive buying, compulsive gambling, some form of compulsion that is to get away from. It could be workaholism. I'm going to immerse more, or I'm going to get more involved in my community, and I'm going to work with the kids' youth programs, but it's spending less and less time at home and less time with your partner. So it's not always infidelity, but it's why is that happening? Because they've been moving on and trying to stay in the relationship for whatever reason. The symptoms have already been there. The red flags have already been well shown, but always it's a surprise when it comes.
Mm.
So what happened? So I just wanted to highlight that point. An affair is not always the reason why it ends. The relationship has already had its troubles way before that happens. And it comes down to communication, how we're communicating. And in the separation is learning how to communicate healthily, effectively, putting together a way of a plan, as I've used before working with clients going through a separation, is use their first name. You don't have to sign off love as you've always done in the past. So you sign off in a text and it might be, "Hi, John." You know, just a reminder, you're picking the kids up at 5. Maybe you don't need to do the reminder. Do it in a text. Do it in a parenting app, for instance. We're talking about kids, because then it's already set as a calendar reminder. It doesn't require you to be what appears to be hostile. It all depends on the nature of how you've been communicating and how you're going to communicate in the present, and how we can work to have better communications in the future.
I love this. I love that we're talking about communication because a very forward focus is about, okay, here's we've had the feelings, we've done some therapy, we've had a coach, this is some time down the road, and I'm sure it continues. And yet, whilst we're still healing, we're also being practical in how we're communicating so that we don't create more pain, more suffering for ourselves and each other. And you mentioned a parenting app. That's fascinating. So there's
Yeah.
tools out there to help parents communicate in these situations.
There are some excellent parenting apps. There are some that are free, but some that are actually paid. So you can actually have an entire calendar in there. You can put the kids' events in there. Both parents have access to
Brilliant.
it. You can communicate through that. So, and that takes out the whole
Mm,
need for long emails,
mm,
legalese. You can then just say, for instance, Cindy's being picked up from ballet on a Saturday at 3, and it's your pickup. It's already in the calendar. You both agreed that it's there. So
mm,
there's no reminders coming back. There's no
mm,
triggering, that
mm,
happens in the communication. So it can
mm.
take a lot of those moments for opportunity of conflict and minimize them, and minimize the opportunities.
Brilliant. You're so full of resources. I think this is really one of the benefits as well of having a divorce coach or a separation coach, because this is how you learn about these things. How else would you know? Like, it's not what you talk about when you go for coffee, unless a friend of yours has been using it already. Like, there's so many resources that are available to couples who
Sure.
are separating, either party, and these resources become available through someone like you or a divorce coach another divorce coach who can lead you to what resources are available. And you've talked before about even a nutritionist and really taking care of yourself on every level. So just in these last moments, I mean, what would you describe for, say, family lawyers who are watching this who may not already be working with a divorce coach, for instance, or a separation coach? What is the benefit? What layer do you add for their client to really support them through this whole process? And how does it also make it easier on the lawyer?
In so many aspects, having a client that is prepared, because I'm also an FDRP, so as a mediator in family law, I can prepare the client for what they would need in terms of documentation, if it's a property mediation or if it's going to be parenting, what they need to, what to expect. So a lot of that can be worked with, but it's also pulling it back into, now that you decided to leave, or now that your spouse has told you that they're leaving, what's the next steps? What do we do? And it's like talking about financial planning, talking about, do you have, what the assets are? How do you manage those assets? What do you do with the kids? How are you going to navigate the conversations? It's all of the emotional morass that we fight through. And, you know, having to spend time with your lawyer to talk about all those things. And, I'm not eating properly, I'm not sleeping. Well, your lawyer's not going to be able to prescribe you any sleeping medication, for instance, that might help, or anti-anxiety medication that might be required for medical reasons. So you need to have appointments. You need to have someone who's going to be, if you like, the coordinator of those things in your life that are going to help you get through to the future. Not revisiting, why the affair happened, but that acknowledging the affair happened. How do we move forward? What do we do now? What are the next steps? What do we do where we're living? Do I need to move out tomorrow morning? It's like, hang on. None of those things have to happen, right? What do you have a well-stocked fridge? Do the kids have meals prepared for the next few days? Is laundry done?
So I'm
It's
hearing it's about making life easier under duress. You're in a situation you didn't want to be in for either party, and yet this is how do you make life easier for everyone, and how do you remain healthy through a
and,
difficult transition?
and know this isn't defining you for the rest of your life. That this
And
will
getting,
pass. Yeah.
mm,
That you'll get through the other side. And one of the key roles is to provide hope to the client to know that, yeah, this feels heavy now. This feels like you're going through the dark night of the soul. But there is going to be daylight. There will be an outcome here. You will get through the other side. It will not look the same as your life does now, because life is always in flux and changing. And helping them through, not to get to, this is going to be all right. No platitudes of, simple things. This isn't about putting the, what we call, greeting card moments in front of the client. This is about helping the client navigate reality and know that they need a family lawyer. They need to have, if necessary, to have an accountant to help them figure out what the finances looks like. Have a real estate agent if they need to find somewhere to rent, or somewhere to buy. What is the specific needs? Because this isn't a cookie cutter generic approach. This is very much about tailor making each individual to what they need so they can get to the outcome of what they want in life, which is truly to be free and happy.
yeah,
Pretty simple.
that's what we
Not
all
easy.
want, right?
Yeah.
So what we're all working towards. And also, it sounds like you have that established network. You have the people to go to that you trust, that you've worked with before, and you've had some good feedback from clients. So these are the people in your network who you'd refer to
Yeah.
clients should they need their services. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Precisely.
just another advantage of having a coach. It's like you're the hub. You can help people with any of these things. You're not going to provide the services, but you're going to direct them to services
Right.
that are already proven and trusted.
Correct. I'm not the nutritionist. I'm not a family lawyer. Right. So let's make sure that we bring the experts in that can help with the piece that needs, because not everyone is all things to all people. And it sounds, a lot of clients when they're going through the separation say this sounds really expensive. Well, imagine what 3 years of litigation can cost, whereas you could do this in under a year with a team around you to help you. Talk to your therapist. If you have a psychologist, talk to your psychologist. It's about the emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being of an individual as they go through a trauma, and they know that
Mm.
they will get to the other side.
Mm. And I think really having someone in your camp is so key, because I've heard stories from people close to me who have experiences with their family members that their separation, divorce has taken years because one party's been playing, been holding things up, been, there's these tactics that happen. And unless you have someone in your corner who can really help you through emotionally and practically, and also help you with a team of people, legal or financial planners, then you can um, accelerate, or at least keep things on track rather than being derailed for months or years at a time.
Precisely.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Absolutely.
wonderful practice. And thank you for sharing with the viewers, the audience, what a little bit more about what divorce coaching is, because I think it's still quite new here. And it's important for people to know what's available to them so they can help themselves through these tough times. So yeah, also, if you're a family lawyer watching this and you feel that there's something Thad could support a client of yours with, then we encourage you to reach out by email, admin@betteroutcomes.au, and we'll be here next week, I think,
Yep.
with another topic. And so if you have a special request, or there's a particular topic that concerns you or that you feel would really be valuable to discuss, please email that, and we can certainly put it on the agenda. There's something to discuss.
Absolutely.
And we welcome your comments in this feed as well. So any insights of yours, comments, we're there, and we'd love to respond. Well, Thad will. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And we'll see everybody next week. Thank you so much.